Ladies and gents, we have pre and post testing for our most recent patch in Act 3. Now, surprisingly, this was actually a sizable patch. Normally by this point in the season, or in this case an episode, things are pretty quiet, and for the most part, Sandbox changes are pushed to the next big content rollout. However, with update 8.1.5.3, we've been given a ton of Sandbox changes that we're going to be breaking down today. So let's begin with the rapid fire auto rifles. Bungie has increased the body shot damage from 13.5 to 13.6, and they've increased the crit damage from a whopping 23 to 23.1. Now on paper, these are very minor damage increases, and you're probably looking at this thinking, Cross, really? This is what you're trying to hype up right now? Surprisingly though, this is just enough to shift those resilience values for the optimal time to kill on this archetype. You see, pre-update at 10 resilience, you would need 9 crits and 2 body shots to kill in 0.83 seconds. Then from tier 9 to tier 5 resilience, this would then jump down to 10 crits in 0.75 seconds, which is pretty cooking, fellas. Now it's from tier 4 and below that you can kill him 9 crits in 1 body, still in that 0.75 second time to kill value. Now post update, that tier 10 resilience check has been completely removed now. You can now kill all guardians from tier 10 resilience to tier 6 in 10 crits, 0.75 seconds. As a matter of fact, from tier 5 resilience and below, you can kill in 9 crits, 1 body. What this really means is that all the players that are running around with max resilience, especially my Titans out there, rapid fire auto rifles should catch them with their pants down. And if you're a huge fan of weapons like Chroma Rush, which is actually one of my top choice weapons for this episode, you're going to be eating pretty good now. Now we also have a number of exotics though that do fall into that rapid fire frame. For example, Tommy's Matchbook, a weapon we recently brought into Trials of Osiris due to the fact that it has this bugged ability where it can essentially ignite enemies after applying the Scorch, but that's not the point here. What I was really curious about was whether or not this buff would affect things like its Scorch damage. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Pre and post, we were getting the same Scorch up to a max of 10 damage per tick, with our ignition damage dealing 121, so no change there. Now for the folks still trying to cheese there with Tommy's Matchbook and acting War Rig, fortunately for you, Bungie has not fixed this yet, so yeah, go crazy. Now next we have Necrochasm, which is arguably my favorite rapid fire auto rifle in the game, and with the time to kill and forgiveness shifts, Necrochasm just got a lot better. The question that we had was whether or not this would buff things like the Curse Thrall explosions. However, that did stay the same at 131 damage both pre and post. Now the last rapid fire exotic auto rifle that I know many of you have forgotten about, oh how the times have changed, is our beloved but forgotten Quicksilver Storm. Now this weapon has a lot of unique factors, as it has the ability to accumulate grenade launcher shots. It also has these mini rockets that go out as you're shooting the weapon. The question was whether or not anything overlapped here. Did the rockets get an increase? Did the grenade launcher shots get an increase? Neither of those got a buff. The Sandbox team here doing a pretty good job of making sure there's no overlap in our exotic traits, which is both a good and bad thing. I kind of like it when things get broken. Regardless though, rapid fire auto rifles guys are feeling a hell of a lot better. Now our next weapons to go over are our pulse rifles. We'll kick things off here though with our high impact pulse rifles first, as they have received a nerf. Body shot damage has gone down from 22 to 21.5. Crit damage has gone down from 39.6 to 38.7. Now the purpose of this change is so that now to reach that optimal time to kill, you will need to land 6 crits on all resilience levels above 1. Additionally, high impacts are also getting a range nerf, as their ADS damage fall off scalar has been reduced from 1.7 to 1.6. Now pre-update, you could get a kill with a high impact pulse rifle on Guardians tier 10 resilience and tier 5 in 0.67 seconds, but this requires 6 crits. Now it's from tier 4 and below that you could secure a kill in 5 crits in 1 body. Now pose, all the way from tier 10 to tier 1, you need 6 crits in order to get that optimal TTK of 0.67. Now as far as range goes, we tested this out on an 85 range roll LC. Now pre-update, it didn't experience damage fall off until around 40 meters. And now post, you could see it starting to experience damage fall off at 38 meters. So this is a big nerf, guys. Now how does this nerf affect Headseeker on high impact pulses? What we found in our testing is that you could squeeze out 5 crits, 1 body, but only on Guardians tier 4 resilience and below, which in my opinion, considering the meta right now inside of PvP, guys, I don't come across many people rocking that low of resilience. So I'm not saying that Headseeker isn't still good. Granted, it still does give you the increase there in aim assist, but for the most part, whether you're rocking Headseeker or not, you're pretty much always going to need those 6 crits. Overall, guys, this is a hell of a nerf. It's not just the damage that's getting attacked here, but that range as well. Now, how does this affect our exotics in this archetype? For no time to explain, we were curious whether or not our turret that we spawn in would be doing less damage. Pre and post, you'll be happy to know it's still doing the same amount of damage, 11. On top of that, it's not really a good avenue to try to circumvent this nerf, considering it takes 10 crits to even spawn that turret to begin with. Now, our other high impact exotic is Red Death, which is an interesting one because its perk inverse relationship gives you a damage bonus as your health gets lower. Now, testing this at the point of our shields being broken, you can see pre-update, this would actually bump our crit up to 42 and our body shot to 24, which would allow us to get the kill in 5 crits, 1 body on all resilience levels. Now, post though, this damage buff is now only hitting for 41 to the head and 23 to the body, which means you can only get the kill on Guardians 5 crits in 1 body at tier 8 resilience and below. Again, I'm not saying it's not valuable. Obviously, it's still pretty good, but it's got a resilience gate now, that being tier 9, tier 10. And on top of that, you have to be at low health to even proc this. Now, still on the topic of pulse rifles, a big buff was handed out to lightweight pulses. This received a massive buff this update, with its body shot damage being increased from 17 to 20.4, and its crit damage being increased from 31.45 to 31.6. Now, pre-update, you could kill from tier 10 resilience to tier 7 in 7 crits, 1 body in approximately 0.87 seconds. From tier 6, that forgiveness drops to 6 crits and 2 body, but still 0.87 seconds. But from tier 5, you can actually get the kill in 7 crits flat in 0.8 seconds. Now, post updates, everything has been shifted upwards, meaning at tier 10 resilience to tier 7, you can now get the kill in 6 crits, 2 body in 0.87 seconds. And then from tier 6 and below, you can actually get the kill in 7 crits for 0.8 seconds. Now, how does this affect our exotic lightweights? Keep in mind, guys, we have weapons like Bad Juju, Outbreak Perfected, which are present in this archetype. Now, though Outbreak is performing a lot better, unfortunately, its nanites did not seem to get the buff. They were doing 13 damage pre, and now they're doing 13 damage post per nanite. With that being said, though, Outbreak has felt so good using these past few days. And considering that this is a craftable exotic, and you can roll things like Headseeker on it, this actually will shift the forgiveness, requiring only 5 crits, 3 body shots, up to tier 8 resilience. Now, as far as Bad Juju goes, this weapon also falls within that lightweight category. It's got the same changes there to its base time to kill as our other lightweight pulses, but Bad Juju itself has String of Curses. Now, we didn't test every single one of these strings, but just to showcase, at string ×1, pre-update, it could get the kill on max resilience Guardians to tier 9 in 7 crits, 0.8 seconds. And then from tier 8 resilience and below, you could get the kill in 6 crits and 1 body. Now, post-update, you can get the kill in 6 crits, 1 body on tier 10 resilience and below. So that little bit of forgiveness, guys, will allow you to chain those kills with more ease once you get string going. Now, I know string ×5 is highly unlikely inside of PvP, but if you did get it, pre-update, you're able to get the kill in 5 crits in 0.47 seconds on max resilience Guardians and below. Post-update, it's still the same 5 crits. However, it's from tier 5 resilience and below that you're able to achieve that 0.47 time to kill value in 4 crits, 1 body. Overall, guys, lightweight pulse rifles are feeling substantially better. And I'm trying to really think back. I don't know if we've had a moment where lightweight pulse rifles were the meta. And I'm not going to say they're the meta right now, but weapons like Outbreak, Bad Juju, legendaries like Stay Frosty, Chattering Bone, and many others that you may have forgotten about are holding their own for once inside of PvP. At one time, I would consider this as arguably one of the worst archetypes for Crucible. Now, though, it's doing a lot better. Now, moving on, we have Heavy Burst Sidearms. Our body shot damage has gone from 30 to 33, and our crit damage has gone from 48 to 52.8. Now, pre-update, our time to kill from tier 10 resilience to tier 6 was 5 crits, 0 bodies in 0.73 seconds. Then from tier 5 and under, you can actually get the kill in 4 crits and 1 body. Post buff, though, from tier 10 to tier 8, you're able to get the kill in 4 crits and 1 body, 0.73 seconds. So again, one shot is moved up, or I guess in this case, moved down to a body shot. And then from tier 7 and below, you can actually get the kill in 3 crits, 2 body. So it's a pretty substantial buff here for Heavy Burst Sidearms. The question is, why? I know we have sidearms like Breachlight, which I've got a few good rolls of, at least for PvE. Empirical Evidence is another Heavy Burst Sidearm that's good. Forgiveness, but exotic-wise, we don't have anything. And I'm actually going to go out on a limb right now and say that next season, I think we're going to get an exotic Heavy Burst Sidearm. I think thematically, Drek's Promise would make more sense to have come back in this episode, but perhaps next episode, it may return to us and may return to us as a Heavy Burst Sidearm. Who knows? Now, moving on, we have lightweight scout rifles. This is our last on the list in terms of damage buffs, but they have seen their body shot damage go from 32 to 38 and their crit damage go from 64 to 64.6. Now, pre-update for Guardians 10 tier resilience to tier 8, this would get the kill in 4 crits, 0.9 seconds. And then from tier 7 and under, you could get the kill in 3 crits and 1 body. Post all resilience levels from tier 10 and below, lightweight pulses can now achieve the kill in 3 crits in 1 body, 0.9 seconds. I don't know if I have anybody using these scout rifles, but if you got to mine a multi-tool, perhaps a Night Watch, Patron, might want to take it out and give it a spin, man. Now, the rest of these are kind of like some subjective of things before we get into SMGs, which is a big one. Precision hand cannons have received a small buff to their intrinsic perk, which already gave them increased AE. But now with this change, the precision frame intrinsically now also reduces ADS movement speed penalty by 10%, which affects all legendary 180 round per minute hand cannons. It also affects things like Malfeasance and even things like Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten, despite those weapons being 140s. Now looking at this pre versus post, 10% isn't a whole lot, kind of hard to tell, but it does seem like you do strafe a bit faster when aiming down sights. So if I got any folks that are Luna lovers, try it out, man. Might be moving a lot better. Next we have sniper rifles. Bungie has reduced the camera roll component of flinch against players by 20%. Now looking at this pre versus post with Beloved from our testing, our reticle does not get flinch as high anymore now. And I'm noticing this in my matches, guys. I'm actually getting sniped when unloading into an enemy. And it's not something you're gonna notice if looking at it on your own. It's when you look at it side by side that you could see the difference. Now for some reason, Bungie also buffed Whisper of the Worm. Specifically, the camera roll component of its flinch against players was reduced by 50%. And this was even harder to tell because Whisper was already arguably the most stable sniper rifle inside of PvP for my crazy people that actually use it. And looking at it side by side, I suppose it's gotten even more stable. I guess the real question is who is using this thing? What madman is like, yo, for my heavy, I'm gonna use an exotic sniper rifle. And not just any exotic sniper rifle, but Whisper of the Worm, the mad lad. Now let's talk SMGs. Bungie's increased magazine size on SMGs by 10 to 15% depending on the magazine stats and rate to fire. For instance, lightweights, so things like multi-mag, has had a mag increase from 36 to 40, which is around 11% increase. Adaptives like Parabellum has gone from 33 to 37. Aggressives like Immortal went from 27 to 32. Precisions like Unending Tempest has had its mag increase from 27 to 30. These are pretty substantial bumps in magazine size. And this also affects our exotic SMGs. Huckleberry has gone from 30 to 35. Osteostriga has gone from 27 to 30. Wrist Runner has had a huge bump from 41 to 47. Manicore has gone from 38 to 44. And Teraba has gone from 30 to 35. This is obviously Bungie trying to push us to use SMGs, especially in things like PvE, where magazine size is such a limiting factor. Now, to take this a step further, Bungie has also rolled back their nerf to target lock specifically on SMGs. You see, almost a year ago during update 7.3.5, Bungie added a specific tuning to target lock on SMGs, which required them to shoot 20% of the magazine to activate the perk. This has now been undone. With update 8.1.5.3, SMGs with target lock have made a return. First up, we've got the problem child himself, Immortal. Previously, our time to kill from tier 10 to tier 8 resilience was 8 crits to body, 0.75 seconds. And then from tier 7 and below, you can get the kill in 9 crits, 0.67 seconds. Post updates, our time to kill is looking like 8 crits to body, 0.75 seconds at tier 10 resilience. And then from tier 9 to tier 5, this actually drops to 0.67 seconds in 9 crits. Then from tier 4 and below, 8 crits in 1 body. So definitely no room for forgiveness there, but target lock is back, man. For my folks that can land those crits, you can cook. And I'm sure some of you are already seeing a rise in Peacekeepers and SMGs inside of your Crucible lobbies. Now, we also tried Unending Tempest. This is a precision SMG. Pre-update, you could get the kill in 7 crits to body in 0.8 seconds from tier 10 resilience to tier 7. And then 8 crits 0 body, 0.7 seconds from tier 6 resilience and below. Now, post-update, tier 10 resilience, you're able to get the kill in 7 crits to body, 0.8 seconds. But from tier 9 resilience to tier 5, you're able to get the kill in 8 crits, 0.7 seconds. And then from tier 4 resilience and below, 7 crits in 1 body, 0.7 seconds. Now, one thing I do want to mention, I did see a clip on Twitter from Multimock where Immortal, he was able to kill a 10 tier resilience guardian in 9 crits for 0.67 seconds. But at least from our testing, we were not able to pull that off. I know target lock is a weird one. We had some inconsistencies in the past, but regardless though, I would say target lock on SMGs is back on the menu. Hence why you were seeing more of them inside of your Crucible lobbies. Now, before getting into our other exotics, let's talk about a perk that actually drops on our Iron Banner weapons. That being Skulking Wolf. Bungie now allows it to activate inside of PvE, and when it's active, it makes enemies slightly less accurate when targeting you. Now, pre-update, you can see that the origin trait did not work at all inside of PvE. It was strictly a PvP only perk. Post-update though, it does in fact activate in PvE, when of course you get a kill at low health. Although to be quite frank, I can't really tell if it's working or not. The very first time I activated it in my test, it did seem like the enemies were a bit more inaccurate, or perhaps it took them a bit longer to shoot. But in other tests that we did with Skulking Wolf active, enemies were still shooting me, and they seemed pretty accurate for red bars. So again, I want to say that it is working, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's anywhere near as strong as Manicore. Manicore has a similar effect that when you suspend yourself with the thrusters in air, it enemies will literally shoot where you were at the moment of activation of that perk. Skulking Wolf, in my opinion, is not nearly as dramatic as Manicore, at least in our testing. Now, moving on to some of our exotic changes. Graviton lands has seen a dial back in its rounds per minute, essentially being reverted back to 300 rounds per minute. Now, if you look at our pre versus post comparisons, our pre-DPS against Carl was 21,420. Now for post, our DPS has dropped down to 19,664. It's not a major nerf, guys. I think Graviton Lance is still a fantastic weapon. Its ad clearing capabilities is still one of the best out there. Now, this nerf definitely seems to be targeting PvP more than anything. If you look at our pre-update time to kill values, you could get the kill with Graviton Lance in 0.8 seconds. Matter of fact, from tier 10 resilience to tier 2, you could get that kill in 5 crits in 1 body. And then from tier 1 resilience below, you can get that same kill in 4 crits, 2 body. Now, posts. Our damage values are exactly the same here, but because of the rate of fire being dropped, our time to kill is now shifted to 0.87 seconds, which does put it slightly worse than that of things like Corrasion or Nullify. In my opinion, though, even though I love those pulse rivals, especially Nullify, Graviton Lance is still, to me, just more consistent. But without a doubt, you're definitely going to see a pullback in Graviton usage inside of PvP. Now, next, we have our Titans. Alpha Lupi is seeing somewhat of a nerf when using Thruster. For Spirit of Alpha Lupi on Stoicism, they've reduced the healing impulse when using Thruster to 30 HP. And with the actual Crest of Alpha Lupi Exotic, it has been reduced to 60 HP. Again, only when using the Thruster. And if you see here pre versus post, you could see that difference in health gained. And as someone who has used Alpha Lupi with thrusters now for quite a while, this is definitely a nerf you're going to feel. Now, we did test the barricades just to make sure there wasn't any overlap here, but thankfully, the pre and post values for this remains the same. No shenanigans, fellas. Now, finally, to round out this video, we have a couple of miscellaneous things, but stuff that has been broken for a while, as well as some changes that we literally didn't even know about. So some of these we may not even have pre-values on. First up, though, we have Ace of Spades. Bungie fixed an issue where the Firefly perk on Ace of Spades was dealing kinetic damage instead of solar. Now, I didn't know this was happening, but running a lost sector and triggering Firefly, it looks to be outputting a solar explosion. Now, some exotic armor pieces that got touched up, Mana of Battle Harmony, Foe Tracer, and Path of Burning Steps, apparently they were not applying solar weapon boost ×4 when activated to weapons besides Two-Tailed Fox. Again, we don't have any pre-data on this. However, we did try all 3 of these, and they are now, in fact, applying the ×4 solar weapon damage boost. I'm actually shocked I didn't know about this, and no one else told me about this. I know this is a stasis season, and all of us have been using stasis builds, but that's a major bug, and I'm really curious to know how long it's been going on. Now, Celestial Nighthawk. Bungie fixed an issue where Golden Gun incorrectly was receiving the boosted roaming super recharge benefits while Celestial Nighthawk was equipped. Now, this was a bit of a weird one because Celestial Nighthawk intrinsically gives you more super energy on precision final blows. However, when looking at it pre versus post, you could see that we're getting less super energy now. Before, after clearing out all the ads in the Cistern-Law sector, I had pretty much my entire super bar, and now it's only about 3/4 full. It's still pretty good overall, guys. Definitely don't throw out Celestial Nighthawk, especially if you're doing like a bad Juju Celestial combo. Shout out to Juju on that beak. But no longer is Celestial Nighthawk Golden Guns going to get that benefit that all of our other roaming supers got with the increase in super regeneration. Now, for our other broken exotic armor piece, Ballidorse Wrathweavers. Bungie fixed an issue where Ballidorse Wrathweavers would increase the damage dealt by shattering targets frozen with Winter's Wrath far more than intended. Now, this was discovered shortly after the launch of Act 2. If you remember that day, we were actually sitting in here testing it over and over, and it was crazy, guys. Look at the health bar here of Greg. Some wild stuff, man. The combination of Ballidorse, Winter's Wrath, Song of Flame, or Thunderlorn, when you timed it just right, you would remove entire chunks of health from bosses. It was so buggy and so much damage that the game itself couldn't even properly recognize how much damage you did on the wipe screen. Now, since then, guys, Ballidorse has been disabled, but upon re-enabling it, we have tried it in every way possible. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, we were not able to recreate the bug, and therefore, bosses' health bars are safe from the power of Ballidorse. Now, last but not least, Hunter Shadowshot Super is finally re-enabled inside of the Vespers host dungeon. No longer is it grayed out, and when using it, there was no crashes against Ranix. So tell the hunters, your time has finally come, and it only took 3 months. So guys, that is our pre and post testing for our Act 3 update. Right now, all of our attention is going to be focused on what's coming in Heresy, and as disclosed here recently in the TWAB, we have a ton of arc changes. We've got some arc builds that we're going to be putting out over the next few days that we feel like are going to be very good as we're getting new aspects added, so be looking out for those. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.